I've started a new channel called Lunila Tales. Please subscribe and watch my best stories there. Link is in the description. It was the kind of morning that promised nothing exciting. The sky was dull, the air was humid, and Mara Windsor was 3 sips away from finishing a protein shake that tasted like strawberry-flavored despair. Then the ground began to hum, the air rippled blue, and before she could say not again, a beam of light swallowed her. The last thing she saw was her running shoes floating off the sidewalk. For a few seconds she thought she had died. Then she smelled something awful, like burnt socks and wet metal, and realized she wasn't in heaven, she was in a very dirty spaceship. Mara blinked at the flickering lights above her. Around her were 6 aliens arguing in what sounded like a mix of gurgling and microwave static. One of them had too many eyes, another looked like a disgruntled lizard in a lab coat, and all of them were pointing metallic tools at her. She tried to speak, but the shock came out as sarcasm. "If this is a rideshare, I'd like to file a complaint." The tallest alien hissed something to the others, and suddenly they all froze. Mara realized they hadn't expected her to talk back. The captain, a bulky creature with blue skin and a patch of cybernetic plating around one eye, stepped forward. His name tag, or at least the glowing strip on his armor, flashed something that looked like Vrax. He tilted his head, confused. "You are human?" he asked in broken English. Mara rolled her eyes. "No, I'm a talking sandwich." The smaller aliens recoiled at her tone. Humans were supposed to be terrified, compliant. Mara Windsor, however, was not having a good morning. Vrax smirked. "You are property now. We sell humans. Rare commodity." He tapped on a control pad and a hologram projected a list of prices, each showing different species. Mara was worth a shocking amount. Apparently humans fetched a high price for their emotional unpredictability. She stared at the number beside her image and muttered, "You're undercharging." That earned her a zap of blue electricity across her arm. She yelped, glaring at Vrax. "I've had ex-boyfriends with better manners." The crew exchanged uncertain looks. The translator device beeped as if trying to interpret her tone. They dragged her to a small containment chamber lined with glass walls and glowing restraints. Mara sat cross-legged, staring at her reflection. This was supposed to be her week off. She'd just finished her first successful mission as a planetary security recruit. She wasn't famous, rich, or special, at least she thought so. Her father's shadow had followed her since childhood, but she'd worked hard to be seen as her own person. And now? She was abducted by what looked like space plumbers. Hours passed. She listened as they argued over whether to take her to the auction station on Zarnith or sell her directly to a collector. The translator was slow, but she caught fragments. Windsor specimen, Earth female, valuable genetics. When she heard the word Windsor, her stomach tightened. She pressed her ear to the glass. "Hey," she shouted, "what did you just say?" The aliens ignored her, but one of them hesitated. He whispered something to Vrax, and the captain froze mid-sentence. Vrax turned slowly toward her. "What is your full designation?" he asked. Mara frowned. "My what now?" "Your name," he clarified. "Mara Windsor," she said, confused. The room went dead silent. Even the hum of the engines seemed to fade. Vrax's cybernetic eye flickered. One of the smaller aliens dropped a tool with a clatter. Mara looked around, bewildered. "What? You guys allergic to British surnames?" Vrax muttered something in his native tongue, and panic rippled through the crew. "Release her," one said. "Destroy the records," another hissed. "We are dead," a third whimpered. Vrax grabbed Mara by the shoulder, his voice trembling. "You are of the Windsor line?" "Pretty sure last I checked," she said. "My father's Lucius Windsor." "Why?" Vrax stumbled back like she had pulled a weapon. "Lucius Windsor," he repeated, fear dripping from every syllable. "The negotiator of the 9 Suns. The man who ended the Orion War. The one who destroyed an entire fleet for taking a diplomat." He swallowed hard. "And you are his blood." Mara blinked. Her father had always been mysterious, but she'd never imagined his name would make alien slavers act like kids caught stealing candy. Vrax barked orders. Shut down the containment field. Erase the beacon signal. Do not alert the market. His crew scrambled in panic, pressing buttons, overturning consoles. Mara just watched, arms crossed, as the ship descended into chaos. Okay, she said dryly, so either you're scared of my dad or you owe him money. One of the aliens, shaking, approached her with trembling claws. If Admiral Windsor knows you are taken, he will come. Another added, he does not negotiate. He annihilates. Mara raised an eyebrow. Well, lucky for you, I haven't exactly been on speaking terms with him. That made them freeze again. You are estranged? Vrax asked cautiously. Mara shrugged. Long story. Military differences. Family drama. You know how it goes. The captain exhaled, part relief, part dread. Still, if word spreads, our species will be hunted. He paced rapidly, tail flicking. We must return her. No, no, too dangerous. We cannot let others know. Mara stood up slowly, testing the unlocked door. Or you could, I don't know, drop me back home and pretend this never happened? Vrax glared. You expect us to survive his wrath? She smiled faintly. Well, if you don't, maybe I can teach you how to apologize convincingly. The tension in the room broke slightly as one of the smaller aliens accidentally pressed a self-destruct warning. Sirens blared. Everyone screamed in different frequencies. Mara sighed, stepped over to the console, and hit the cancel command. The noise stopped. She turned to the stunned crew. You're welcome. Vrax looked at her differently then, less like cargo, more like an unpredictable bomb. You are not ordinary human, he said softly. Mara grinned. Took you long enough to notice. In that moment, something shifted. The crew realized they weren't holding a victim. They were holding leverage, danger, and possibly a ticket to galactic immunity. Vrax's calculating gaze returned. Perhaps, he said, we can make a deal with the Admiral himself. Mara's smirk faded. She didn't know where her father was, or what he'd do if he learned she'd been kidnapped. But deep down, she knew one thing. Lucius Windsor didn't negotiate with criminals. He destroyed them. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched into streaks of light as the ship jumped into hyperspace, carrying Mara Windsor straight toward the most dangerous family reunion in the galaxy. Mara woke to the sound of a distant argument echoing through the ship. The hum of the engines vibrated beneath her boots as she sat up on the cot that barely qualified as furniture. Her head throbbed from the thin air and whatever strange atmosphere the aliens breathed. Outside her quarters, she heard voices overlapping in panic and frustration. They had been arguing ever since the night before, ever since they learned her last name. She smirked to herself, realizing she had managed to turn her own kidnapping into a full-blown existential crisis for her captors. That had to be some kind of record. She wandered toward the door, which slid open automatically. Either they forgot to lock it or someone decided to test her. In the main chamber, Captain Vrax was pacing in circles while his crew surrounded him, shouting in different tones that somehow sounded like frightened squid. We must deliver her, one hissed. No, release her, said another. If the Admiral discovers us, we will cease to exist. Vrax slammed his clawed hand against the wall, making the ship rattle. We are already dead if we do nothing, he growled. Mara cleared her throat. You know I can hear you, right? They froze. The smallest alien, a round creature named Pip according to the badge on his translator collar, squeaked. Human awake, he said. Oh, bravo, Mara replied. 10 points for observation. Vrax exhaled heavily and turned to her. We must discuss arrangement. Mara folded her arms. You mean my ransom? He hesitated. We prefer the word negotiation. How diplomatic, she said. Did you learn that before or after the kidnapping class? Vrax ignored the jab and gestured for her to sit. The table projected a hologram of the galactic network. We send message to Admiral Windsor. We tell him we have his daughter. He pays, we live. Mara stared at the image of her father's face in the archive feed. He looked exactly as she remembered. Sharp eyes, iron jaw, the expression of a man permanently unimpressed by the universe. You won't live, she said softly. He doesn't negotiate with criminals. Pip blinked. Then what'd he do? He erases you, she said. Efficiently. The room went quiet again. Vrax's metallic eye flickered nervously. You bluff. Mara leaned forward. He once vaporized a fleet for taking a diplomat. What do you think he'll do for his daughter? She said it calmly, but inside her chest, her heart was pounding. It had been years since she'd seen her father, years since she walked away from his empire of order and control. But if he really was still alive, she wasn't sure whether he'd save her or arrest her for desertion. Vrax began pacing again. If we cannot contact him, what do we do? He muttered. Mara saw her chance. Here's an idea, she said. We find a neutral station, drop me off, and no one gets vaporized. Pip's translator sputtered. Human makes sense, he said. Vrax growled. Human wants freedom. Freedom makes us target. So does breathing, Mara shot back. Pick your poison. They glared at each other for several seconds, a silent standoff between predator and prey that neither could afford to win. Then a loud beep interrupted them. The hologram console lit up with a signal flashing in red. Incoming transmission. The crew scrambled into position. Identify sender, Vrax ordered. The system crackled. Admiral Lucius Windsor, the computer intoned. Mara's blood ran cold. That was fast, she whispered. The projection flickered to life. Her father's familiar face appeared, but something was wrong. His movements were slightly delayed. His voice had a strange metallic undertone. This is Admiral Windsor, the transmission said. Release the girl and surrender your ship for inspection. Mara frowned. That's not him, she murmured. Vrax turned sharply. You lie. No, she said, stepping closer. He never calls himself Admiral in private. He hates titles. That's an impostor. The fake Admiral continued speaking. Deliver her to coordinates 794 Zeta. You will be compensated. His eyes glitched for a millisecond, a flicker of static. Mara pointed at the distortion. See that? Whoever this is, it's not my father. Someone's using his identity. Vrax cursed in his native tongue. Trap, Pip whimpered. Big trap. The captain bared his teeth. Who would impersonate the most feared human in galaxy? Mara's mind raced. She thought of the endless stories whispered among recruits, about a secret organization that mimicked high-ranking officers to manipulate treaties. The Syndicate, she said quietly. They've done this before. They copy leaders, control wars, rewrite histories. Vrax looked uncertain. Then what they want with you? Mara met his gaze. Leverage. If they control me, they control him. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared across the deck. The navigation panel flashed with proximity warnings. Mara ran to the viewport just in time to see 3 black ships emerging from hyperspace, their hulls marked with crimson insignias. Guess they didn't want to wait for an RSVP, she muttered. Vrax roared, Battle stations! The ship jolted violently as plasma bolts struck their shield. Crew members scrambled, shouting over each other. Mara grabbed onto a railing. Who are they? Pip shrieked. The Syndicate, she said grimly. The ship shook again, lights flickering. Return fire! Vrax shouted. Energy beams burst from the cannons, colliding with the attackers, but the smaller vessel was no match for the sleek Syndicate ships. A blast sent them spiraling, alarms screaming. We cannot win, one crew member cried. Mara stumbled toward the pilot's seat. Then run, she yelled. I can fly this thing. Vrax hesitated. You? Human pilot. Better than dying, isn't it? She slammed into the seat and grabbed the control stick. The interface was alien, but the basics were similar enough. She pulled the ship into a sharp dive toward the nearby planet, a swirling gray moon visible below. The syndicate followed, firing relentlessly. "Hold on!" she shouted as they entered the atmosphere. Heat flared around the hull, metal groaning. Pip screamed something about incineration. Mara ignored him, flipping the stabilizers and punching the thrusters. "If we're going down," she said through gritted teeth, "we're going down on purpose." The ship slammed into the moon's surface, skidding across black rock until it crashed into a ridge. The impact threw everyone forward. For a long moment, there was only silence and the distant hiss of steam. Mara coughed, unbuckling herself. "Everyone alive?" she called. Pip made a faint noise that sounded like yes. Vrax groaned. "You insane." "You're welcome," she replied. Outside the viewport, the gray wasteland stretched endlessly under a dim sun. The syndicate ships hovered in orbit but didn't follow them down. "They won't risk landing," Vrax muttered. "Atmosphere unstable." Mara leaned closer to the scanner. "So are we," she said. The readings showed strange energy signatures pulsing beneath the surface. Something old was buried here. Something powerful. Vrax looked at her warily. "You brought us to Cursed Moon." Mara shrugged. "Hey, it was that or vaporization." The captain rubbed his temples. "We must repair ship and leave quickly." But as they stepped outside into the dusty winds, the ground beneath them rumbled. Lines of blue light spread through the rock like veins awakening. A deep voice echoed through the valley, mechanical yet alive. "Commander Windsor detected. Authorization recognized. Welcome back." The air shimmered blue above the cracked surface of the moon as the voice echoed again, low and resonant, vibrating through the ground. Mara stood frozen, dust clinging to her hair, staring into the glowing fissures that pulsed like veins of living light. Vrax and his crew scrambled backward, their weapons drawn but shaking. The mechanical voice repeated itself, slower this time, like a machine reawakening after centuries of sleep. "Commander Windsor detected. Authorization recognized. Welcome back." Mara's heart pounded in her chest. She had never been here before. At least, not that she remembered. The fissures widened, and a column of light erupted from the ground, spiraling upward until it formed a figure, not solid, but shaped like a woman made of blue glass and static. The figure's eyes glowed white. "I am Elara, Artificial Liaison for Emergency and Reconnaissance Assistance," said the voice. "Standing orders await Human Windsor Command input." Mara blinked in disbelief. "You're an AI," she said slowly. "A very old one." The figure tilted its head. "Time since last human contact, 1042 years. Awaiting confirmation of command identity." Vrax whispered hoarsely, "Your ancestors built this thing." Mara glanced at him, realization dawning. The Windsor name wasn't just feared, it was old. Her family had helped design the early human expansion into the stars. "Elara," she said cautiously, "I'm Mara Windsor. My father is Lucius Windsor." The hologram scanned her with beams of white light that made her flinch. "Genetic confirmation at 99.9%. Lineage verified. Command reinstated. Crew of Vraxian vessel registered as allies." The aliens looked at one another in awe and terror. Pip covered his mouth with both hands. "She queen now," he whispered. "No," Mara muttered. "Just apparently in charge of something way above my pay grade." Elara's form flickered. "Commander, planetary defense grid offline. Energy reserves at 31%. Hostile surveillance detected in orbit. Recommend activation of subterranean shield array." Mara frowned. Translation: The syndicate ships up there are still watching. Vrax's jaw tightened. "They wait to see if we die here." "Then let's not give them the satisfaction," she said. Elara led them down a long slope into the ruins half buried beneath the moon's crust. The corridors were lined with smooth black stone veined with dim light. Symbols marked the walls, ancient human script mixed with alien characters. "Your father knew of this place," Elara said as they walked. "He sought it before he disappeared." Mara's stomach tightened. "You've seen him?" "Yes." Lucius Windsor accessed the command core 15 years ago. He warned of the syndicate's infiltration. Then he sealed the records. That hit her harder than she expected. 15 years ago, she had still been a teenager, angry and defiant, refusing to follow her father into his war council. Now, the truth was unraveling in front of her like an old wound reopened. "Did he leave anything?" she asked. Elara paused before a massive circular door. One message, locked to his direct heirs. The AI's fingers of light touched the wall, and the door hissed open, revealing a control room filled with ancient consoles, most still flickering faintly with power. The air smelled like dust and ozone. In the center of the room hovered a recording crystal. Elara gestured toward it. Mara stepped forward, hesitant, and the crystal activated. Her father's image appeared, older, wearier than the last time she'd seen him. "Mara," he began, voice steady but heavy. "If you are hearing this, it means they've found you. The syndicate is not a shadow anymore. They've taken everything, names, faces, even my command." His eyes flicked up, sharp with urgency. "They will come for you, because you are my last failsafe." Mara felt her chest tighten. The image continued, flickering. "You carry the genetic codes that unlock the Treaty of Nine Suns, the agreement that binds half the galaxy in fragile peace. If they control you, they control it all. Do not trust anyone. Not the Council. Not even those who claim to be my allies." The message ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence. Vrax looked at her, then at the others. "Your father made enemies with everyone." "Yeah," she said softly, "and apparently left me to clean up the mess." Before they could react, the ground trembled again. Elara's voice echoed through the chamber. "Incoming transmission detected. Frequency unknown. Signal mimics Admiral Windsor's encryption pattern." Mara exchanged a look with Vrax. "Put it through," she said. The crystal shifted, projecting the familiar face of her father, but this time, the glitch was gone. His movements were smooth, his tone confident. "Mara," he said, calm and commanding. "You're safe. I see you found Elara. Good. Now listen carefully. You must activate the failsafe protocol. It's the only way to ensure peace." Mara narrowed her eyes. "You're not him," she said immediately. The hologram smiled faintly. "Still the suspicious one. I taught you well." "My father never taught me anything," she snapped. "He ordered." The hologram hesitated just long enough to confirm her suspicion. She crossed her arms. "Nice try, whoever you are. But you slipped." The false image flickered and shifted, revealing a different face beneath, still human, but younger, sharper, with eyes too familiar. "You've grown," the man said. "Didn't think you'd remember me." Mara's breath caught. "Leo?" she whispered. The man grinned. "In the flesh." "Well, mostly." Vrax looked between them. "Who is he?" "My brother," Mara said slowly. "He died 10 years ago." Leo's smirk widened. "Reports of my death were exaggerated. The syndicate found me first. Offered me a better deal than Dad ever did." His voice hardened. "Join them or be erased. I made the smart choice." Mara shook her head in disbelief. "You're working for them?" "Working with them," he corrected. "The galaxy needs order, Mara. Father's diplomacy failed. I'll fix it my way." The hologram leaned closer, his tone darkening. "You're holding the key now. Hand it over, activate the treaty core, and this all ends without bloodshed." Mara clenched her fist. "You mean without witnesses?" Leo sighed. "Always dramatic." He gestured off-screen. "If you won't cooperate, I'll just come get you." The signal cut out. Elara's lights dimmed slightly. Multiple syndicate ships descending. Time to impact, 5 minutes. Mara turned to Vrax. "We can't stay here. Is the ship operational?" "Engines at 20%, he said. "Barely enough to lift off." "Then we don't lift off," she said. "We hide." She looked at Elara. "Can you mask this base?" The AI pulsed faintly. "With your authorization, yes." Do it, she commanded. The light spread through the walls, and the hum of energy deepened. Outside, the moon's surface began to shimmer, cloaking the base from scanners. Vrax's crew watched as the glow faded to darkness. What now? Pip asked in a small voice. Mara exhaled slowly. Now we plan. My father's gone, my brother's gone rogue, and half the galaxy thinks I'm a weapon. If they want me, she said, eyes hardening, they'll have to catch me first. Above the clouds of the dead moon, the Syndicate ships circled like vultures, unaware that their prey had just vanished beneath their feet. In the shadows below, Mara Windsor stood at the center of a war that had been waiting centuries to begin. The moon's surface had gone silent, but tension simmered beneath the ground. Mara stood beside the glowing console, staring at the faint holographic trail her brother's transmission had left behind. The air felt heavier here, full of static and ancient dust. The silence that followed the Syndicate's retreat was deceptive. They were still up there, circling, waiting. Vrax's crew moved nervously through the corridors of the hidden base, fixing what they could salvage from their crashed ship. The faint hum of Alera's systems echoed like a heartbeat beneath their feet. Mara rubbed her temples, exhaustion settling deep in her bones. She hadn't slept properly since the abduction, and the realization that her brother was alive only twisted the knife of confusion deeper. Vrax entered the chamber carrying a handful of metallic shards. We repaired the communication array, he said. But we need power. Alera's voice materialized beside them, calm and patient. Energy levels at 30%. Allocation to defensive systems has priority. Vrax frowned. Without communication, we are stranded. Mara shook her head. Better stranded than found. The captain growled lowly, his temper beginning to crack. You are human, Windsor, not machine. You cannot hide forever. The Syndicate will come. Your brother will come. She met his gaze. Then let them. I want answers first. They followed Alera deeper into the ruins where tunnels expanded into massive halls filled with ancient machines, some still glowing faintly. Pip scurried beside them, his tiny feet tapping nervously on the floor. This place feels alive, he muttered. Like sleeping giant. Alera responded without turning. That is not inaccurate. The moon was once part of a planetary defense network. Its core houses a sentient reactor. It dreams in cycles. Mara raised an eyebrow. A dreaming reactor. Great. Maybe it can dream us up some coffee. Vrax ignored her attempt at humor, his eyes scanning the walls filled with old human insignias. Your people ruled this sector once, he said. Then they vanished. Mara ran her hand along the carved metal. My father used to say humanity's greatest mistake wasn't war. It was forgetting what we built. The words sounded bitter even to her own ears. She stopped at an alcove where a rusted plaque bore her family crest, a silver phoenix rising from a burning star. Looks like forgetting runs in the family, she murmured. Alera's voice softened slightly, almost as if it understood. Lucius Windsor did not forget. He tried to preserve what could not be saved. His actions prevented extinction. Mara turned sharply. Then why did he disappear? Alera paused. He was betrayed. The word echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. Mara's stomach twisted. By who? Record sealed, the AI replied. Restricted by his personal encryption. And my brother has that key, she realized aloud. Alera confirmed with a gentle pulse of light. Correct. Your brother inherited the access through secondary genetic authorization. Vrax muttered under his breath. So both of you control power that can destroy worlds. Mara gave a small, humorless smile. You make it sound like we planned it. Suddenly the base lights flickered. Alarms pulsed through the corridors, and Alera's tone changed to alert mode. Unidentified life forms detected within perimeter. Energy signatures non-syndicate. Vrax drew his weapon. Ground forces. No, Alera replied. Subterranean movement. The floor trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Pip squealed and hid behind a crate. Mara pulled a plasma cutter from a nearby rack, ready for anything. The rumbling grew louder until the ground cracked open and several shadowy figures emerged, covered in dust and armor patched from scrap metal. One stepped forward, lowering a rifle. "Hold your fire!" the stranger shouted. His voice was rough, desperate. "We're not Syndicate." Mara lowered her weapon slightly but didn't relax. "Then who are you?" she asked. The man removed his helmet, revealing reptilian features and intelligent amber eyes. "Refugees," he said. "Escaped from Syndicate control. We've been hiding in these tunnels for months." He looked around with awe at the lit corridors. "Did you awaken this place?" Mara hesitated. "Not on purpose." The man's expression shifted into cautious gratitude. "Then maybe you've saved us. The machines above this moon kept the Syndicate away, but we couldn't reach them." He nodded toward Vrax. "You're with the slavers." Vrax bristled. "Formerly," Mara said quickly. "Long story." The refugees, a mix of alien species in ragged uniforms, were soon escorted to the central chamber. They brought news that sent a chill through everyone. The Syndicate had begun mass abductions across nearby systems, taking entire colonies under the guise of protection. They were building something huge, something called the Ascension Engine. "They say it will rewrite the balance of power," one of them explained. "Control minds, erase rebellion." Mara exchanged a look with Vrax. "That's what my father warned about. If they finish that engine, it's over." For the first time since her abduction, she felt purpose rising beneath her exhaustion. She stood before the group of refugees and Vrax's crew. "We can't run anymore," she said. "If they're building that machine, we stop them here." The crowd murmured uncertainly. "You're human," one of the aliens said. "Why risk your life for us?" Mara glanced at the glowing veins beneath the floor. "Because they're not just coming for you. They're coming for everyone. And because I'm tired of running from a legacy I didn't choose." Vrax crossed his arms. "You talk like soldier again." "Maybe I'm remembering how," she replied. They began organizing the refugees, repairing weapons, linking the ancient base's systems with their ship's remaining tech. Elara guided them, recalibrating old defense grids and activating drones that had been dormant for centuries. Pip bounced between terminals, delighted by the beeping lights. For a moment, the moon came alive with movement and purpose. It felt like hope. Then, as night fell across the gray horizon, Elara appeared before Mara in the command room. "Commander Windsor," it said quietly, "I have accessed one additional fragment from your father's encryption. Would you like to view it?" Mara nodded. The air shimmered, and another projection of Lucius Windsor appeared, younger this time, standing in a command chamber much like this one. "If the AI is still operational," he said, "then the line continues. The Nine Suns Treaty can only hold if both heirs stand united. If not, the failsafe will activate automatically." He paused. "Forgive me, Mara. I could never protect you from the cost of our name." The image faded, leaving her breathless. "Failsafe?" she asked. Elara answered, "A contingency that erases the entire artificial network across the galaxy to prevent takeover. If activated, I will cease to exist. So will every AI, every data chain, every automated system. Civilization would collapse." Mara felt the weight of it sink in. Her father had built a weapon disguised as peace. Vrax stepped forward. "And your brother wants control of that." "Exactly," she said. A sudden tremor shook the base again, louder this time. "Orbit breach detected," Elara announced. "Multiple ships descending. The Syndicate." The Syndicate's first wave hit just before dawn, turning the gray sky into a storm of fire. Mara stood at the center of the control deck, watching the sensors light up like a swarm of angry stars. The old base trembled with every impact, its ancient shields groaning against the assault. Elara's calm voice narrated the chaos in chilling detail. Multiple enemy vessels detected. Surface breach imminent. Probability of survival without retaliation, 3%. Mara's fingers tightened on the console. Then let's raise the odds. Outside, the surface of the moon blazed with energy. Turrets buried for centuries rose from the dust and unleashed beams of blue light that tore through Syndicate drones. Refugees scrambled through corridors, assisting Vrax's crew in distributing weapons and powering defenses. It wasn't a fair fight, but it was a desperate one, and desperate had always been Mara's specialty. Vrax entered the command room, armor scorched, eyes blazing with determination. "They've landed troops at the southern ridge," he said. "My crew's holding them back, but we can't last long." Mara turned to Elara. "Activate ground defenses," she ordered. "Seal the lower levels." The AI obeyed without hesitation, lights flickering as dormant systems came alive. Explosions rumbled through the tunnels, shaking dust from the ceiling. "They want me," Mara said quietly. "They'll keep coming until they have me." Vrax glanced at her sharply. "Then maybe it's time to give them what they want, on your terms." She frowned. "You're suggesting I surrender?" "I'm suggesting bait," he said. "Let them think they've won. Draw them in close enough to hit them where it hurts." Mara hesitated. It was risky, reckless even, but the plan had logic. "All right," she said finally. "We'll give them their prize." An hour later, under the flickering lights of the central chamber, Mara stood surrounded by refugees and Vrax's crew. "If they get control of this place," she said, "they'll activate my father's failsafe and erase everything. We can't let that happen. When I signal, seal the chamber and trigger the feedback pulse through the core. It'll fry their systems long enough for us to escape." Pip raised a trembling hand. "And if it fries us too?" "Then we'll glow in style," she said, forcing a grin that didn't quite reach her eyes. The Syndicate breach came with thunder. Metal doors melted under plasma fire as armored soldiers flooded the corridors, their helmets gleaming like obsidian. Mara stood at the far end, waiting. Behind her, Elara projected faint light patterns on the walls, mapping enemy movement. "2 squads approaching," the AI reported. "Lead unit accompanied by human signal." Mara's stomach twisted. "That'll be him." Leo stepped through the smoke first, his armor polished and his expression almost casual. "You always did know how to make an entrance," Mara said. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You always did know how to cause trouble." His soldiers fanned out behind him, weapons raised. "You could have avoided all this," he said. "You could have joined me. And helped the Syndicate enslave half the galaxy?" she snapped. "Hard pass." He sighed, shaking his head. "You still think small. The Syndicate isn't about slavery, it's about control. Order. Father's peace was temporary. Mine will last forever." "You sound just like him," she said bitterly. "No," Leo replied. "I sound like someone who learned from his mistakes." He gestured to his soldiers. "Take her." Mara didn't move. "Before you do, you might want to know what you're stepping on." Leo frowned, looking down. The faint blue glow beneath their feet began to pulse faster. "Elara," Mara said, "activate Phase 1. The AI's voice filled the chamber. "Acknowledged, Commander." The floor erupted in a surge of energy. Shock waves of light rippled outward, throwing soldiers off their feet. Mara ducked behind a console as explosions shook the room. "Vrax now," she shouted into her comm, "pulse the core." Vrax's voice crackled through the channel. "With pleasure." A deep hum filled the air, growing louder until it became a roar. The entire moon seemed to awaken, ancient power coursing through its veins. Outside, Syndicate ships were struck by a massive energy surge that short-circuited their systems, sending them spinning into chaos. Elara's tone remained calm amid the destruction. "Pulse complete. Enemy networks destabilized. Warning, core integrity failing." Mara stumbled toward the exit, smoke thick in the air. She turned back once, seeing Leo pulling himself up, eyes blazing. "You think this changes anything?" he shouted over the noise. "You're just delaying the inevitable." She met his gaze. "Maybe. But at least I'm doing it with style." Then the ceiling gave way between them, cutting off his voice. She sprinted through the collapsing corridor, half carrying Pip and guiding stragglers toward the hangar. Vrax's ship, patched and barely functional, waited with engines screaming. "Everyone aboard!" Vrax yelled. The last of the refugees clambered inside as debris rained from above. Mara turned to Alara's flickering projection beside the hatch. "Come with us," she said. The AI's image wavered. "My systems are bound to this structure. I will remain." "You'll die," Mara said. "Technically, I was never alive," Alara replied. "But I thank you for the sentiment." The AI's final words followed her as she boarded the ship. "You carry the legacy now, Commander Windsor. Choose wisely what to do with it." The hangar doors opened and Vrax's vessel shot into the sky, fire trailing behind them. Below, the moon glowed brighter and brighter until it imploded in a burst of blue light, swallowing the Syndicate fleet in silence. Hours later, drifting in the dark void, the survivors gathered in the dimly lit hold. Pip was asleep against a crate, snoring softly. Vrax leaned against the wall, looking at Mara. "You destroyed your father's fortress," he said. "You destroyed your brother's army. What now?" Mara stared out the viewport, watching the debris fade into starlight. "He's not dead," she said. "I know him. He'll rebuild. And next time, he won't underestimate me." Vrax nodded slowly. "Then we prepare." "No," Mara said quietly. "We expose them. All of them. The Syndicate, the Council, anyone who's hiding behind the treaty. My father built a peace that was based on secret. I'm going to build one that doesn't need lies." For the first time in days, she allowed herself a breath of calm. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of danger and possibility. Somewhere out there, Leo was alive, and the galaxy was already moving toward its next war. But Mara Windsor wasn't the scared soldier who had been abducted anymore. She was something her enemies hadn't expected, a survivor with a name that could still shake empires. She leaned back in her seat, exhaustion catching up to her at last. "Set a course for the central systems," she said. "We've got a council to crash." The ship turned slowly toward the light of distant suns, and behind her, the wreckage of an empire drifted quietly into darkness. The council chamber of the Nine Suns was built to impress, a colossal dome of glass and gravity fields suspended above a sea of clouds on the planet Vihalis. For centuries it had been the seat of diplomacy, law, and secrets, where wars were ended and empires rewritten. Now it was full of shouting voices, flickering holograms, and chaos. The rumor of Mara Windsor's survival had spread across the systems in less than a day. Delegates from every known species crowded into the chamber, arguing over what it meant. Some called her a symbol of hope, others a living threat. None of them knew that she was already in the building, walking through the servants' access tunnels with Vrax and Pip close behind. Her boots echoed softly against the metallic floor. Pip kept whispering anxiously, his small frame almost shaking with nerves. "Big crowd, big trouble, big everything," he muttered. Mara glanced at him. "Relax, Pip. If anyone asks, you're my emotional support alien." "Not funny," he hissed. "Maybe not, but it's keeping you quiet," she replied. Vrax marched ahead, scanning the hallways with his weapon drawn. "This council is more dangerous than any battlefield," he said. "Do you trust them?" "No," she said simply. "But they need to hear the truth, even if it kills me." They emerged from the tunnel into the heart of the chamber just as the council leader was calling for order. 100 faces turned toward her. The noise stopped like someone had cut the air. Mara stepped forward, the galaxy's most wanted human standing in front of its most powerful rulers. "Mara Windsor," the leader said slowly, disbelief coloring his voice. "We were told you were dead." "Almost," she said. "But apparently the galaxy wasn't done arguing about my family." A ripple of uneasy laughter spread through the hall. The leader, a tall figure with crystalline skin, motioned for her to speak. "You've come here without permission, without escort, and after detonating a moon," he said. "Why should we listen to you?" Mara looked around at the assembled faces. Because the Syndicate isn't just an enemy anymore. They're the ones pulling your strings. She tapped the console on the podium, and Ilara's recovered data projected into the air. Footage of Syndicate operatives disguised as diplomats, recordings of Council communications being intercepted, names, codes, everything. "You've been compromised," she said. 4 years. The reaction was immediate. Gasps, denials, accusations. Several delegates stood shouting over each other. "This is fabrication," one protested. "You come here spreading lies to seize power," another shouted. Mara raised her voice. "If I wanted power, I'd have used the failsafe and burned this entire system to ash. I didn't, because I still believe there's something worth saving." The chamber quieted again. Her words echoed off the walls, raw and sharp. Before anyone could respond, a sudden distortion filled the room. The lights flickered and a voice boomed through the comm systems. "Always the dramatic one, little sister." The holographic displays shattered into static, and Leo's image appeared at the center of the room, projected from a ship hovering in orbit. He was smiling, calm, almost charming. "You really should have stayed hidden," he said. "Now you've forced my hand." The council erupted in panic. Security drones powered up, surrounding the projection. "Cut the transmission," the leader ordered, but it was too late. Leo's hologram flickered, and behind him the view of space showed dozens of Syndicate ships descending toward Valhalis. "This isn't an invasion," Leo said smoothly. "It's a cleansing. The Syndicate offers peace through unity. No more secrets, no more division. Surrender, and you live. Resist, and you become a footnote." Mara's jaw clenched. "You're not offering peace," she said. "You're offering obedience. Isn't that what Father wanted?" Leo replied. "He built a world of rules and order, and you hated him for it. I'm just making it perfect." His tone softened slightly. "Come with me, Mara. You don't have to fight anymore. You and I could rule this galaxy the way it was meant to be ruled." She stared at him through the distortion. "You're right about one thing," she said. "I hated Father's rules. But I hate yours more." She slammed her hand on the console. "Ilara, engage projection override." The chamber lights flared. A new hologram filled the air, an image of Lucius Windsor, the real one, speaking his final message to both his children. "If you are hearing this," the recording said, "then my line has reached its endgame. To my son, I leave my ambition. To my daughter, I leave my conscience. You will destroy each other if you forget that peace was never meant to be control. Choose differently." Leo's face hardened. "You think that old man's words mean anything now?" he sneered. "They mean everything," Mara said. "Because I finally understand him." She turned to the council leader. "Activate the planetary shield. Now." "That will trap us here," the leader warned. "Exactly," she said. "Let's see if he's willing to destroy what he claims to save." The shield flared around the planet, a golden barrier stretching into the sky. The Syndicate fleet halted, their weapons charging but not firing. Leo's image wavered, his calm cracking. "You're bluffing." "You should know me better than that," she replied. "I learned from the best." Then she opened a channel directly to his fleet. "This is Mara Windsor," she announced. "The Syndicate isn't your savior. It's your cage. You've all been lied to, just like I was." She broadcast the data Ilara had decrypted, proof of how the Syndicate manipulated soldiers, erased memories, and rewrote loyalty programs. For a moment, silence filled the network. Then, one by one, the smaller ships began shutting down their weapons. Mutiny spread through the fleet as captains refused Leo's orders. "No," he shouted. "You can't." His image flickered, distorted, and vanished as his ship broke formation. Outside the chamber, the stars lit with brief bursts of light as Syndicate vessels turned on each other. Mara stood frozen, her chest rising and falling. The leader of the council looked at her in astonishment. "You just ended a war without firing a shot." She gave a weary smile. I guess I got that from my father. Hours later, the council chamber was quiet again. Vrax and Pip sat among the refugees who had been granted asylum. Delegates whispered to one another about rebuilding, about new alliances. Mara stood by the window, watching the sunrise crawl across the sky. Vrax joined her. "So what now, Commander?" he asked. She exhaled slowly. "Now we try to build something better. Real peace, not the kind my father and brother dreamed of. Something that belongs to everyone." He nodded, then smirked. "And after that?" "After that," she said, "maybe I'll finally take a vacation." Pip's sleepy voice piped up from behind them. "Can we go somewhere without slavers, syndicate, or explosions?" Mara smiled faintly. "No promises." Outside, the first rays of light touched the council spire, turning it gold. A message appeared on the central display: Ambassador Mara Windsor appointed to lead the new galactic coalition. She stared at it for a long moment, then laughed quietly. "Guess I'm not done causing trouble yet." As she turned to leave the chamber, the comm crackled with a faint, familiar voice. It was